Let's get started with our first news. Dana White made a huge announcement last night, and it sent shockwaves through the fight community. He confirmed that the long-rumored UFC White House card is officially on. After weeks of speculation, Dana himself gave the update while leaving Washington, D.C., and the excitement in his voice said it all. He shared that the meeting at the White House could not have gone any better. According to him, the conversation with the officials was smooth, positive, and extremely productive, and now the UFC is set to make history in a way it never has before. Dana explained that he had just wrapped up his day in the Capitol, saying it was one of the best days in a long time. He was about to board his flight but couldn't leave without sharing the news with the fans. He said, "We had the meeting at the White House. It could not have gone better. This is going to be awesome. The White House fight is on." His words carried pure excitement and certainty, leaving no doubt that the UFC had just secured one of the most groundbreaking events in the promotion's history. Think about the magnitude of this moment. The UFC, which started in small arenas decades ago, will now be hosting fights connected directly to the White House. The symbolic weight of this announcement is massive. Dana emphasized more than once that the deal was sealed that very day. He confirmed that everything necessary had been agreed upon, and while the finer details will be revealed soon, fans should know that the event is not just talk, it's happening. Dana also made it clear that fans won't have to wait too long for more information. He promised that within the next couple of weeks, more announcements will be shared, including fight details, potential matchups, and how the card will be structured. For now, what we do know is that history has been made. UFC's relationship with the White House is stronger than ever, and this card could elevate the sport to new heights. Dana's excitement was contagious as he repeated the phrase, "The White House fight is on." He said it not once, but multiple times, as if he wanted the entire world to understand just how monumental this is. And when Dana speaks with that much conviction, you know it's the real deal. He has always been a promoter who thrives on big moments, but this one might be among the biggest yet. This is not just about fights inside the octagon, it's about global recognition for mixed martial arts. The White House hosting or backing such an event shows how far the UFC has come, from being considered too brutal in its early days to now being embraced on one of the biggest political stages in the world. For Dana White, this is another win in his long journey of turning the UFC into a mainstream powerhouse. The energy behind this news is undeniable. Fans are already buzzing, media outlets are running with the story, and fighters will no doubt be eager to be part of a card that could go down in history as one of the most iconic ever. Dana said it best himself, "This is going to be awesome," and the countdown to the official details has already begun. Before moving to the next news, we have one quick request for you. We're constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That's why we'd truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Move on to another news. Islam Makhachev has received a major warning ahead of his upcoming title defense at UFC 322, and it's coming directly from the camp of his opponent JDM. After Dana White's massive announcement confirming the card details, JDM's head coach Ben Vickers appeared on Submission Radio to deliver a strong message aimed at the lightweight champion, and Vickers didn't hold back when breaking down the fight. According to him, Islam does not have the same kind of durability as some of the other top fighters in the division. He specifically mentioned that Islam doesn't have the chin of someone like Bilal, pointing out that if JDM lands clean on Islam, it could be over at any moment. He said it doesn't matter if it happens in the very first minute, the middle of the third round, or with just seconds left in the fifth. The power that JDM carries in his hands is always dangerous, and that is something Islam will have to deal with for all 25 minutes inside the octagon. Vickers explained that JDM is comfortable in long fights. He's not the type of fighter who burns out early or fades under pressure. Instead, he thrives in those later rounds where his conditioning really begins to shine. And while he enjoys dragging fights deep, Vickers made it clear that they're not in there to put in extra work. If the opening presents itself, JDM will not hesitate to close the show. What makes this especially dangerous for Islam is that JDM combines power with endurance. Ben went on to highlight one of the most impressive aspects of JDM's recent performances, his cardio. He brought up the fight with Bilal, who is widely regarded as one of the fittest athletes in the UFC. Despite Bilal's reputation for being able to push an insane pace, Vickers argued that JDM actually outlasted him. By the later rounds, Bilal was visibly more fatigued than JDM, and that stood out as a huge confidence boost for the team. It proved that not only does JDM hit with fight-ending force, but he also has the gas tank to maintain that pace from start to finish. This combination of knockout power and exceptional cardio makes him a rare threat to someone like Islam. Most opponents who face Islam either break under his relentless pressure or fade before they can test his chin late in the fight. But Vickers believes DDM is built differently. He can survive the grind, he can keep pushing, and at any moment he can land a shot that changes everything. Vickers ended by saying he genuinely likes this fight for his fighter. He respects Islam's skills but feels that stylistically this matchup favors JDM in more ways than people realize. He doubled down on the belief that if JDM connects clean, Islam will go down, no matter when it happens. He also emphasized that Islam has never faced someone with this exact blend of attributes: knockout power, relentless cardio, and the confidence to go into deep waters without fear. As the countdown to UFC 322 continues, these words from JDM's camp only add more fuel to the fire. The champion is being warned that he may be walking into the most dangerous test of his career, and while Islam has silenced critics before, this fight carries a different kind of tension. The stakes are enormous, the confidence from JDM's side is sky high, and the message is simple: Islam is vulnerable, and JDM is coming to expose it. Move on to another news. Sean Strickland has once again found himself at the center of controversy, but this time it's not inside the octagon. The former middleweight champion is currently serving a suspension, and in order to have it reduced, he has been ordered to complete anger management classes. However, that isn't the only requirement. As part of his agreement with the commission, Strickland is now forced to spend time training female fighters in MMA. This unusual condition quickly caught the attention of fans and fighters alike, especially when photos surfaced online showing Strickland working with a group of women on the mats. The news broke after Veronica Hardy, the wife of Dan Hardy, shared a post confirming the situation. She uploaded a picture of herself alongside Strickland and two other female fighters, writing that as part of his suspension reduction deal, Strickland is required to coach women's MMA. She added that he's clocking in the hours and even mentioned that she had suggested to the commission that Strickland should be obligated to corner female fighters during their bouts as well. That proposal is still being reviewed, but the idea of Strickland being forced into a coaching role for women fighters is already making waves. As expected, Strickland did not stay silent. He took to Instagram to share his own reaction to the arrangement, and his comments were as blunt and controversial as ever. He wrote, "Here's the thing, if I'm not sleeping with any of them, am I really a female MMA coach? Let's be real. That is the main requirement of being a female MMA coach. I'm just a guy on the mat with women." While many criticized his remarks as offensive, this kind of statement is typical of Strickland, who has built a reputation for saying exactly what's on his mind, no matter the backlash. Still, behind the humor and sarcasm, the situation is very real. Strickland is required to put in hours coaching women, and if he doesn't comply, his suspension won't be reduced. The commission is clearly taking his past behavior seriously, and these conditions are meant to force him into settings that challenge his personality and test his ability to follow rules outside of fighting. For a man known for chaos, confrontation, and wild remarks, this might be one of the strangest punishments yet. Despite the suspension, Strickland has made it clear he wants to return to competition before the end of the year. The clock is ticking, and while no opponent has been named, the middleweight division continues to move forward without him. Strickland remains hopeful that fulfilling the commission's demands will clear the path for a comeback in late 2025. Until then, his days will be filled not with title defenses or press conferences, but with hours spent teaching, training, and mentoring female athletes. The irony of the situation hasn't been lost on fans either. Strickland, a man who often mocks political correctness and refuses to censor himself, is now being forced into a role that requires patience, professionalism, and discipline. Whether he treats it as a punishment, a joke, or an opportunity remains to be seen. What is clear is that this chapter of his career adds yet another bizarre twist to the story of one of MMA's most unpredictable fighters. For now, Sean Strickland is not just a fighter serving a suspension, he's a man under contract to coach women's MMA, and that in itself is something no one could have predicted. Move on to another news. Daniel Cormier has spoken out, and this time it's to disagree with none other than Khabib Nurmagomedov. Recently, Khabib gave his prediction for a potential matchup between Ilya and Arman. On his YouTube channel, Khabib said that Ilya only has a 20% chance of winning against Arman. That statement caught a lot of attention, but it also sparked strong pushback, especially from Cormier, who explained why he feels Khabib's take is way off. According to Cormier, the idea of an 80-20 split in favor of one fighter is almost impossible in today's sport. He said flat out that 80-20 is crazy. In his words, Come on, man. 80-20 is hard when anyone's fighting. The only time you could even think about an 80-20 scenario in this game was when it came to Khabib and Jon Jones. They are the only two who went through their careers without losing. To Cormier, those two stand alone in terms of dominance, and that's the only reason such a lopsided percentage could ever make sense. But then he made his biggest point. He reminded everyone that Ilya is undefeated, just like Khabib once was, just like Jon Jones has been. Ilya hasn't lost a single professional fight. For Cormier, putting an undefeated champion like Ilya on the wrong side of such a drastic prediction simply doesn't add up. He said, "To put Ilya on the opposite side of that 80-20 is crazy to me. I don't believe that for 1 second. I really do disagree with Khabib on that one." Cormier's reasoning is straightforward. In his eyes, there is no fighter in the world who could be confidently expected to beat Ilya 8 out of 10 times. He explained that in MMA, anything can happen, and the margin for error is too small for anyone to be that dominant over another elite-level fighter. Even someone as skilled as Arman, who is one of the top contenders in the lightweight division, doesn't have the resume or the dominance to justify such a wide gap. Cormier also emphasized how difficult it is to stay undefeated, pointing out that only a handful of fighters in history have managed to do it. Ilya's record, his ability to adapt, and his finishing power make him a dangerous opponent for anyone, suggesting that Arman would beat him 8 out of 10 times. According to Cormier, disrespects Ilya's skill set and what he's already accomplished inside the octagon. It's rare to see Cormier publicly disagree with Khabib, given the two have always shared mutual respect and admiration. But this is one of those instances where Cormier felt the need to set the record straight. He wasn't dismissing Arman's abilities, but rather standing firm on the belief that Ilya deserves much more respect. In his eyes, the matchup between Ilya and Arman would be far closer to 50-50, not 80-20. This debate highlights just how much excitement and intrigue surrounds the possibility of Ilya facing Arman. Both fighters are young, hungry, and considered among the very best in the sport today. But for Cormier, one thing is absolutely clear: writing off Ilya with such extreme odds is wrong. In his words, "There is not a guy in the world that I believe is going to beat Ilya 8 out of 10 times. That's just the truth." Move on to another news. Khamzat is being accused of lying about his return date, and the situation is stirring up some serious debate in the MMA world. Recently, Khamzat suggested that he would be open to defending his middleweight title in October, specifically in Abu Dhabi. The timing made sense given how stacked the UFC usually makes those international cards, but according to RDR's manager, that timeline isn't accurate at all. In fact, the story coming out now paints a very different picture of when Khamzat will actually be back in the cage. Ali Abdelaziz, who manages RDR, spoke with Submission Radio and revealed some behind-the-scenes details about the scheduling talks. According to Abdelaziz, the UFC had already floated the idea of Khamzat fighting in October, and if that had happened, RDR would have been the one standing across from him. But Abdelaziz claims Khamzat himself told the promotion that he wouldn't be fighting until next year. That revelation immediately throws cold water on Khamzat's public comments about a possible October defense. Abdelaziz explained that because of Khamzat's decision, RDR had to make his own call. He didn't want to sit around waiting any longer. After already spending years in one championship, RDR didn't want more wasted time on the sidelines, so instead of holding out for Khamzat, he accepted a fight with Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez. Abdelaziz praised RDR for this choice, saying it shows he wants to stay active, continue making money, and keep improving. According to him, RDR believes he has all the tools to beat Fluffy, especially when it comes to grappling. Abdelaziz pointed out RDR's size, his physicality, and his dangerous knees as key factors in this matchup. At the same time, he was respectful toward Hernandez, acknowledging that Fluffy is a very good fighter who brings a lot to the table. The fight itself promises to be an exciting one, but what makes it even more important is the implication it could have for the middleweight title picture. Abdelaziz noted that if Nurmagomedov Imavov ends up beating Boravo in their fight next month, the race for the #1 contender spot could get very interesting. In his view, it may come down to who puts on the more impressive performance, RDR against Fluffy or Imavov against Boravo. That means every detail of those fights will matter, from dominance in the cage to finishing ability, because the UFC could use that to determine who challenges Khamzat next. All of this makes Khamzat's comments about returning in October look suspicious. On one hand, he says he's ready to defend in Abu Dhabi. On the other, Abdelaziz is claiming Khamzat told the UFC something completely different, that he won't be stepping back inside the octagon until 2026. That contradiction is why people are now accusing Khamzat of misleading fans, whether intentionally or not. It raises questions about whether his camp is fully committed to defending the belt as soon as possible, or whether there are other factors behind the delay. For now, the only certainty is that RDR is moving forward with his fight against Fluffy, and Imavov is preparing to face Baralo. Both of those fights could set the stage for the next title challenger, regardless of when Khamzat actually returns. But what's undeniable is the frustration among fighters and managers who feel that the middleweight division is being held up. As Abdelaziz made clear, fighters don't want to waste time, they want to compete, they want to prove themselves, and they want to earn that shot at gold. Until Khamzat makes his true intentions clear, the controversy around his return date is only going to grow louder. Renato Moicano and Gilbert Burns have made their stance crystal clear on the shocking incident involving Raja Jackson and the wrestler known as Psycho Stu. Both men believe what happened was beyond unacceptable, and Renato didn't hesitate to say flat out that Raja should be locked up. The sheer violence of the attack, the way it unfolded, and the failure of others in the room to step in sooner only fueled their outrage. Renato explained that this wasn't just raw emotion or a sudden outburst. In his eyes, the attack was premeditated. He made the distinction clear. If Raja had reacted in the heat of the moment after being provoked, it would still have been wrong, but at least somewhat understandable. But this was something entirely different. Raja thought about it, planned it, and then carried it out with cold calculation. Renato described it as madness, saying it felt like having a devil whispering in your ear, pushing you to do something extreme. What shocked both Renato and Burns the most was just how far it went. They both agreed that Raja almost killed the guy. Renato even questioned what would have happened if no one else was in the room. His answer? Raja would never have stopped. He wasn't holding back, and the attack would have continued until something irreversible happened. Burns agreed completely, stressing that Raja had no intention of stopping on his own. For them, that chilling reality is exactly why locking him up is the only option. But the blame didn't fall solely on Raja. Both fighters blasted the bystanders, calling them idiots for standing by and failing to intervene. Instead of breaking it up, they froze. Worse yet, after Psycho Stu was already badly hurt, someone actually pinned him down like it was part of a wrestling show. Renato called that pathetic, saying it was disgraceful to treat such a dangerous assault like entertainment. For Renato, the bottom line was simple. This wasn't an accident or a fight gone too far. It was deliberate, calculated violence that nearly ended in tragedy. And in his words, the solution is clear: lock him up 100%.